end of it almost every time. Okay, I'm trying to keep everybody in from the waiting room, but that's the way that goes. This course is Club Foundation, and your presenters are Brad Gamble and Diane Fijis. I hope I got that one right. I will say last name's wrong. And it should be really good. At the end, after the questions and so on, we'll try to have time for everybody to introduce themselves. During the presentation, if you want to use chat to put in questions, I believe they're going to do it. And Brad, if you want to start off and introduce yourself, and if you guys have or want to emphasize anything, go for it.
All right, great. Well, welcome everybody, fellow Rotarians. Great that you can join us today for our foundation training. My name is Brad Gamble. I'm past district governor and current district foundation chair. And along with me is past district governor Diane Fijis, who is our incoming foundation chair starting the next Rotary year. So we'll be the presenters. Diane will be watching for questions as they come up. If you have a question, please hit the raise your hand button or type it into the chat box, and Diane will be watching for those, and we'll get to those questions as they fit into the conversation that we're going to have. So yeah, it looks like everybody's now turned their cameras off. If you would do that, that will help maintain the resolution and the internet quality of the presentation. So we'll get started. Yes, the Rotary Foundation. I like to refer to it as our Rotary Foundation. And our Rotary Foundation, the function of that is, the purpose of that is to do good in the world. We talk about that as being, our foundation as being the lifeblood of what we do. And we hear a lot about what our foundation does, and our foundation enables us as Rotarians and clubs to do the work that we want to do to make our world a better place. So we'll be talking about the foundation, our foundation, both from a general foundation overview, but also more of a focus on the annual fund program, and in particular the annual share program, because that is the piece of the foundation that really comes directly back to us as a district and clubs to allow us to help us do the work that we want to do. So, as you know, Rotary is the premier service organization in the world, and our foundation is one of the premier charities in the world. So as you can see, we have earned for the last, I forget how many years now, a number of years, the top rating from Charity Navigator, which is the charity watchdog for the world. And we do that is because of our ownership as Rotarians of the foundation. We own it, we manage it, we fund it, we use the funds in the foundation to do our work. 91% of the funds in the foundation go directly towards Rotary projects and programs. Like I say, it's due to careful oversight by Rotarians, all volunteers, but we emphasize good stewardship of the funds that we use. A couple of years ago, we celebrated the 100th anniversary of the founding of the foundation. We're in our second 100 years and poised to make that an even better 100 years than this past 100 years has been. as I mentioned, we're going to be focusing on the annual fund. I'm going to get to the reason for that in more depth a little bit, but it's the source of funding for what we do as clubs. There are other funds within the foundation that are also vitally important to the work that we as Rotarians do. But when we contribute to the foundation and look to get something directly back that we can use, it's through the giving to the annual fund, and in particular the annual fund share program that allows that to happen. We fund a multitude of projects that are in support of our areas of focus, from microcredit to water projects, to playgrounds, to you name it, and it will fit somewhere into the areas of focus or the causes that we want to support. There are 6 areas of focus, causes that Rotary and our foundation are dedicated to, and all of them, the goal is to build and foster international relationships, improve lives, promote peace throughout the world. And because of the broad overview or the broad reach of these areas of focus, it's really hard to find a project, to do a project that won't fit somewhere within these areas of focus. Give you an example, a playground project. A club in the district did an all-inclusive playground a number of years ago, and was awarded by the Hospice of Anchorage the Heroes of Healthcare Award for that playground. It was a fully inclusive playground, the first one in the state, and was recognized as a significant program to promote health for children. So like I say, it's hard to come up with a project that doesn't fit somewhere in those areas of focus. As I mentioned, there's funds within the Rotary Foundation. 3 major funds: the annual fund, which we've talked about, the polio fund. We all are strong supporters of Polio Plus, and we know what that's all about as Rotarians, and we are so close to meeting our goal of making a polio-free world through our work and funding of the Polio Plus fund. It's separate from the other funds. Every dime that goes into the Polio Plus fund is used for polio eradication. The annual fund is the lifeblood directly to the clubs to allow us, that combined with the World Fund, gives us the money to do our grants projects, both the smaller district grants and global grants, which we'll get into a little bit later. The way the annual fund works is contributions that are made in 1 year are invested for 3 years and then come back to the district in the form of district designated funds, which are then split between smaller district grants and larger global grants to be used by clubs and districts. And then the endowment fund, that's our legacy gifts to the foundation. That fund, the purpose is to be a permanent fund that's allowed to grow, and then the earnings from that go back to the World Fund and flow back to the projects and programs that we as Rotarians are involved with. So the annual fund actually has several different forms. The one we want to focus on, when you go to make a foundation donation to the annual fund, you can actually choose a program within the annual fund or an area of focus, and it will go directly to a project for that, if you want to specify your contribution that way. But the share fund is the one that is actually used as the share system to come back to the clubs and districts. Like I mentioned earlier, money that is contributed to the share fund in 1 year by Rotarian and clubs and districts then is invested, and then it comes back to the district in 3 years, split between district designated funds, and then half of that goes to the world funds also. Now, within the district designated funds are funds available for smaller district grants and global grants. So we'll talk a bit about the different types of grants. There are two primary grants that we get involved with as clubs. District grants and global grants. We'll start with global grants. Those are large scale projects, minimum of a $30,000 budget for the project, that are intended to promote international projects. So they must involve two clubs or districts at a minimum, one being a host international club or in the district where the project and work will actually take place, and then a sponsoring international club district. For example, we have a project that's being funded now, global grant, in Australia. The district there is the host club and district. We are partners with that as the international club. The beauty of the global grants is you can leverage up to 3.5 times your money. So as you can see by the slide here, a $10,000 club input into a grant project will be matched, can be matched up to 100% with district designated funds. And then whatever's the district designated funds are allocated to that, the World Fund will match that 100%. And then the World Fund will also match any club contributions 50%. So you can get up to 3.5 times leverage for your money. We have several global grants in the works right now. Ketchikan Rotary is involved with a global grant called Healing Little Hearts in Egypt. It's in conjunction with a district in Egypt that provides heart surgeries, needed heart surgeries for children in that area. It's a global organization, so it's a partner organization that is overseeing this, but with the huge support of Rotary clubs and districts, really all over the world. Ketchikan is, and our district have a relatively small part in it, but it gets us into that international, that global work that we're also passionate about. The Eagle River Rotary Club joined with the Rotary Club in Bahia de Caracas to provide a safe water supply in a small village of El Tormento. Again, it's a $50,000 project. There are partners throughout the West Coast, Pennsylvania, and then the host club in Ecuador as well. It's a $50,000 project. Eagle River contributed $5,000, was matched with $5,000 from the district designated funds. The World Fund matched that with $5,000 plus the club's $5,000 with $2,500. So that turned $5,000 into $17,500 toward a $50,000 project. It works well. We've had other global grants in the works. Fairbanks Rotary has been involved with the sanitation project in Belize for a number of years, and I think they've done 3 of those, if I'm not mistaken. global grants can also be used to fund global grant scholarships, master's level studies for professionals, if you will, that want to pursue a secondary master's degree in one of the areas of focus. And that's the key there, is that the field of study must fit within one of the areas of focus for Rotary. And then the recipient, the intent is for that recipient then to pursue a career or further a career in a field that furthers those fields of those areas of focus. Allison Furness, actually, that's a misspelling, from the Whitehorse area, has been involved for the last several years. She's just completing her global grant scholarship, and she studied in Africa, South Africa, for a number of years. And then I mentioned also the fetal alcohol syndrome grant in Western Australia that we're in now, and the intent is to in the next year or two to reciprocate and do a global grant project here in Alaska, in our remote areas of Alaska, tackling that fetal alcohol syndrome. And actually, past District Diane, Past District Governor Diane is the lead on that, and is kind of the instigator of that whole program. So it's been successful, it's ongoing, and it's going to come back and help us here in Alaska as well.
So Brad, can I say just a quick thing about global grants?
Yes.
You can either participate by, as Brad said, giving cash, or we can actually be the host, where we are the ones who are responsible for all reporting. And that's a little bit more complex. It includes community assessments and all of that, which at this time is difficult with all the quarantining that's going on. But I think with this process that we're getting into, the learning process of the webinars through Zoom, I think we'll plan on doing more detailed just for global grants. So anybody who's interested in learning more about that, there'll be more about all types of grants coming. So that's it.
Yeah, thank you, Diane, for that. And that's a good point that you make when we think of global grants and international projects. You know, don't forget that we are international too to somebody in another country. So certainly international projects can and do happen here. We just have to partner with a club or district from another country. Actually, now that Whitehorse is not part of our district, the Whitehorse clubs would be an excellent partner for some global grant work on both sides of the border. So we have the global grants, and then we have district grants. So those are smaller grant projects that we try to do here locally. They can be local or international. Many of them are international, but they are the smaller scale projects. We get, like I said, half of our district designated funds that comes back to us can be used, up to half can be used to district grants. So the amount that we spend is based on the number of grant proposals and the amount of grant proposals we get from the clubs. This money is meant to go directly to clubs to be used for projects that they wish to pursue. The timeline's shorter. We want these projects to be done within the Rotary year that the funds are granted. And we want clubs to be current on district dues. You know, there's some requirements, but they're easy, quick to get grants that can fund a whole variety of work. Some of the projects that are grants that we've had going, we've had a lot of scholarships awarded through district grants from various clubs, high school scholarships. We fund food programs, playgrounds, so many things that clubs wish to get involved in. We are in the process right now of of getting grant submissions from the clubs. We normally want to see those clubs apply by April 20th, recognizing what's going on now and clubs not meeting and just now getting back into the swing of online meetings and really getting our feet back on the ground. We've extended the deadline for district grant applications to June 1st. We need to stick to that deadline pretty closely because it takes time to submit the block grant then to the Rotary Foundation so that we can get that money as soon after July 1st as possible and out into the hands of the clubs so that they can fund their projects. So several steps need to happen to access foundation funds. The first step is to get your club qualified. Two things need to happen for a club to be qualified. They need to be qualified to participate in either district grants or global grants. Two simple steps, really easy steps. Somebody in the club needs to attend a grants management seminar. We recorded 2 one-hour sessions early last month to accommodate that. Those are available on the district website. If somebody from your club has not viewed those or participated during the live sessions, I would urge you to get on the district website and view those. It's easy. Just let somebody on the grants committee then know that you've viewed them, and then reading and understanding the memorandum of understanding. And that is a document that spells out the requirements that clubs need to meet, primarily with their club financial situations and what can and can't happen with district or with foundation funding along those lines. Again, as submissions are done, generally we need the president-elect or next year's president, and then the president following that year to sign that memorandum of understanding. And that can all be done online on the matchinggrants.org website. All of the PEs have been given the information on how to do that. So if you're not a president-elect, if you're a foundation chair, talk to your club president-elect. They know how to get in and do that. They have the manuals in their hands. Instructions for that are also available on the district website under the foundation tab on the home page. So know the district process. Global grants are pretty cut and dried in how they can do because those are approved at the Rotary Foundation level. Each district has their own program regarding district grants and how we run them. We've tried to spell that out pretty clearly in the district grant manual that we've provided on the website. If you have any questions, contact me, Brad Gamble, at bradjgamble@gmail.com. I'm happy to answer questions and help get your club qualified, or any one of the other district grants team. And those are listed again on the district website. Please chime in if you have any questions. And then, our grants team are also, we've tried to become our grants specialists. We can answer questions and help shepherd you through the grants process as you go along. So obviously, there's value in a foundation grant. It's as much to get valuable work done in our communities. It helps strengthen our clubs. Participating in projects and participating in grant projects in particular, they create a strong sense of club engagement. Our district grants especially are intended to get Rotarians involved in the projects that we're doing. We want to inspire both community and international service. because we are an international organization, and it's important that we recognize that and keep our international work going. At the same time, providing that service within our own communities. As we're doing work and doing our projects, we want to make sure that the community knows who we are, what we're doing. So we want to include some public image, some strong public image into those projects. And actually, some public image expenses can be funded through the district grant process as well. Obviously, as community members see what we're doing, see the good works that we do, that can stimulate new membership and interest in our clubs and what we're doing. And then when your club members see how we can put our Rotary Foundation to work for us, it increases our member support of our Rotary Foundation. So we talk about the annual fund and we talk about what it can do. So one of the programs that we like to promote to enhance and encourage Rotary Foundation contributions to the annual fund share, or the annual fund program, is through our Every Rotarian Every Year program. And that's where we encourage, we really would like to see 100% participation in our foundation contribution by Rotarians in our clubs. We want to see a minimum per capita in a club of $100 giving, and to be recognized as every Rotarian every year. Need to do those two things plus contributions of at least $25 by every Rotarian. So these numbers here are not, they're a couple of years old, but through the annual fund 2 years ago, over $140 million was donated to the annual fund. And because of that, there were almost 1,300 global grants approved. We had $115 million invested in humanitarian grants. And of course, because of that, countless lives have been changed, which is what we are all about. And then by participation, clubs can earn recognition through the participation to the Rotary Foundation, to our Rotary Foundation, and in particular, every Rotarian every year. When we see that every club member is participated, for example, in foundation annual fund giving, and every club has, we've got the annual, or the average giving of $100, it can become a 100% foundation giving club. You can become an every Rotarian every year club by meeting the criteria that I said before, with 100% participation, $100 per capita donation, and minimum $25 by every member to the foundation. Talk about the Paul Harris Society in a minute, but that's a commitment that Rotarians can make, and if everybody in a club commits to that, you can become a 100% Paul Harris Society club, which is kind of a neat thing. We have several 100% Paul Harris Fellow clubs, and that's where a one-time recognition where when a club has all of their members become a Paul Harris Fellow, then you can earn the 100% Paul Harris Fellow Club designation. Paul Harris Fellows, we'll talk about those for a minute for, I guess, primarily our newer Rotarians. When you have contributed $1,000 cumulatively to the Rotary Foundation, and that doesn't have to be annual fund, that can be any one of the, the annual fund, the Paul Harris Fund, an approved matching grant project, then that will count towards your Paul Harris Fellow tally, your total giving. So once you've reached a total giving of $1,000 to the Rotary Foundation, you become a Paul Harris Fellow, and then multiples of thousands after that to gain further recognition. Talk a little bit about, there's another way to earn points or to earn Paul Harris designation, and that is through recognition points. I'll talk very briefly about that, but every point that you get, every dollar that you give to the Rotary Foundation earns you a Paul Harris recognition point. I equate the points to airline miles. So when you contribute to the foundation, you earn recognition points. Now those points are not to be used for yourself, but as a Rotarian with recognition points accumulated, you can award those points to another Rotarian for any reason. Clubs and Rotarians can use it as an incentive and match dollar giving with points to a member who has contributed. You can recognize service or good works within your club by awarding points to a Rotarian. And those points can go to, or will go towards their Paul Harris fellowship status as well. I mentioned the Paul Harris Society. That is a commitment that Rotarians can make by committing to donating $1,000 every year to the Rotary Foundation. You can become a Paul Harris Society member. It's a pledge that you make to the Rotary Foundation. You can do it online. You can do it, there's a paper form available that you can download from the Rotary International website, but it's a commitment, and Rotarians tend to keep commitments. So it's a good way to, if you can donate at that level and commit to do it. Most Rotarians will do that, and it's not, you don't join the Paul Harris Society and then, oh, I couldn't make the contribution this year, so I lose my membership in Paul Harris Society. It's not the way it works. It's really just, you make the commitment, and those years that you're able to make that, to fulfill that commitment, awesome, do that. As you can see from the slide here, 44% of all the annual fund contribution comes from gifts of $1,000 or more per year by Rotarians. And Paul Harris Society, if they are, known Paul Harris Society members, give 16% of the annual fund donations yearly. So once you've made that commitment, it absolutely does make a difference. Some easy ways to give to the Rotary Foundation, to our Rotary Foundation, are the easiest that I know of is Rotary Direct. And that's just enrolling into the program where monthly, quarterly, biannually, yearly, or semi-annually, yearly, contributions are automatically given through a credit card, checking account. The credit card's the easiest, and it's a great way to make that contribution without really having to think about it, and it's done. You've made your contribution, and it's good. And what I found by talking to different Rotary Direct participants is they've made that commitment, and then they kind of forget that it happens. So contributions still flow in from the same individuals through our foundation events that clubs hold every year, auctions and whatnot. So it's like it comes out of my paycheck, I don't even miss it, kind of thing, and it's really, really good. I have a challenge that I want to throw out there, and this is to all the Rotarians in our district and all the clubs in our district. If we can commit, if we can get every Rotarian in our district to commit to a $20 a month contribution through Rotary Direct, that would and dedicate that to the annual fund share program. That would satisfy, that would meet what we give annually as a district to the annual fund program. As a district, we typically give in the area of $350,000 through the generous support of our Rotarians, and that's done through club contributions or contributions to the club that flow into the foundation through foundation events and whatnot. If we could get every Rotarian to just sign up for Rotary Direct and contribute $20 a month, that alone would build that, would give that $350,000 to our Rotary Foundation annual fund program. And then I know that it would the giving would still be there though for other programs. It's through our, like I say, our foundation events. It's something that I'd really like to plant the seed, start thinking of, and moving forward, put that challenge out to the district. It's just a way of making our Rotary Foundation our foundation of choice. Or our giving, a charity of choice. So yeah, automate your giving through Rotary Direct. You can also donate online at rotary.org. You can write a check, and many Rotarians do, give a check to your club foundation chair, and those funds are then forwarded to the Rotary Foundation. You can mail it in yourself with a Rotary Foundation contribution form. Many ways to contribute. But the key there is our foundation relies on our contribution. And gifts of any size, have a huge impact. And the nice thing about our foundation that I have found, I firmly believe, is that as a Rotarian, I can honestly say, when I contribute to the Rotary Foundation, I'm an active participant in every project throughout the Rotary world that is going on, that is funded through our foundation, because that's how it works. We can't physically be hands-on with every project, but we can certainly be there through our resources and our contributions to the Rotary Foundation. So I want to say thank you so much for listening to the presentation. We'll open it up now to questions, comments. So Diane?
Brad, I've been watching the questions, and for some reason I got kicked completely off. So if anybody's put questions in just the last 2 minutes, then I don't have them, if you could read them. But one of them was, with all the COVID-19 issues going on, has Rotary specifically decided that might be a next cause? And I gave him a quick answer, thinking I hadn't heard that. We're certainly doing a lot of projects worldwide, but I hadn't heard that it was a specific cause.
Well, it's hopefully COVID-19 is not going to be around long enough to be the next thing after polio plus. But for our immediate response to COVID-19, the Rotary Foundation has set up, well, a year ago, I'll back up. A year ago, the Rotary Foundation set up another fund called the Disaster Response Fund. And that was money that individuals, clubs, districts could donate to that fund that was to be used for grants within districts that were facing an immediate need for some disaster response. The hurricane season last year, the Bahamas comes to mind. I think that was probably the first big event once this fund got started that started to see a draw on the disaster response fund. As a district, we committed then $17,000 of our district designated funds to that disaster response last September, thinking of the hurricane itself in Bermuda. Now, of course, the latest disaster, most current disaster is COVID-19. So yes, within that disaster response fund, there are grants going out right now to districts applying for these grants to be put to use for immediate COVID-19 relief in whatever need form the district has seen fit or has seen the need for. So that's the immediate response. As far as becoming the next project that or disease that we're trying to tackle, we just all hope that it gets out of control or back under control and out of our the mainstream of our news cycles much sooner than we are ready to switch over to a new cause.
Right. And I think Andre has probably wants to talk about what we're doing with COVID-19 and the fund that the district has set up. Go ahead, Andre.
Yes.
Are you muted, Andre?
I wanted to speak to the focus. Right now, Rotary's official position is that they have not named what their focus will be after eradication of polio. We're so close to eradicating it, but clearly the pandemic that we're involved in right now has slowed that work. And what I read, a great article here a few weeks ago, and I posted it on our district website, or excuse me, our district Facebook page, and it was talking about the infrastructure that we have in place for polio is really going to be leveraged to try to deal with whatever future point that there's a vaccine for COVID-19, that same infrastructure may be very beneficial. But I can see the wisdom in trying to not focus on a new future disease, because then people are going to be less committed to wanting to make contributions to eradicate polio. Personally, I'd like to see them tackle either malaria or diabetes, because I think that they're both very serious health issues across the world. But the board of directors of, or one of the directors on the RI board will be talking at my forum on Tuesday morning at 10 a.m., David Stovall. And that would be a great question to ask him, because I think he may be able to add more to that. As far as our district, we are applying for a COVID-19 disaster relief grant. And I was really pleased that Brad mentioned that we already gave $17,000 this year to the hurricane relief in Bermuda. And I had called Brad, and it was kind of by a mutual agreement that we feel like giving more to disaster relief for the Rotary Disaster Relief Fund jeopardizes our ability to give funds for other grants this coming year. So we didn't want to eat up too much of that. We're also a peace district, which means each year we contribute $25,000 of our DPF towards the Peace Dollar program, which, by the way, the deadline is the 31st of May.
Thanks, Andre. One of the other questions is, can clubs make $240 or some amount for the foundation part of their annual dues? I seem to recall Midtown did that, and that's a club by club decision. I mean, clubs can do that. The district doesn't say yes or no. The RI doesn't say yes or no. That's one way if it makes sense for your members to do it.
Right, and actually, clubs do it, but it can't be mandatory. Foundation contributions cannot be mandatory.
Yeah, and Maynard brings up, and he says, please mention that when a Rotarian is over, and actually it's 70 and a half, Maynard, I think, instead of 72 and a half, he or she can direct the retirement account fund. And this is a great way to give to the Rotary Foundation. There's two tax ways. My background is CPA, so there's two great tax ways to give to the foundation, and actually any charity, but the foundation specifically. One is if you're over 70 and a half, you can direct up to $100,000 of your retirement funds directly to the charity. It's not taxable to you, but it's also not deducted. So there's, certainly talk to your CPA. I'm not going to give you tax advice, but that's one way. The other is to set up a donor advised fund with your brokerage account. If you set up a donor advised fund, you can transfer in stock that maybe would be a high capital gain give the stock to them and still take the deduction for a full fair market value. So talk to your CPAs about that.
Good, thank you.
Let's see. Any other questions? Vivian, I see yours. I'll respond here.
Yeah, this was Joe. I was experimenting with the raise your hand feature too on here.
Sorry.
Well,
I can only look at so many
What
places.
that
at
means
once.
is I'm being polite and raising my hand.
There you go.
And I learned that in a different webinar about 2 days ago.
Mhm.
It's under reactions. Two thoughts. One, coming back from International Assembly, I think it's pretty clear that polio is in its end game, but anybody who plays chess knows that the end game in some ways is among the more complex despite the fewer number of pieces still on the board. So a lot of that involves surveillance in about 70 countries, and that's pretty expensive, and then blotting out anything that may come back. Polio was particularly an effective target because it's strictly a human virus that basically doesn't have an animal reservoir that can keep coming back and literally biting us. Unlike COVID, for example, which is known to have numerous animal reservoirs. So there's always that possibility out in the wild that it can come back despite the vaccine in a somewhat different way, whatever vaccine there might be. So polio really still is the most feasible target and was well chosen. So I think we need to keep in mind that we're really close on the end game on polio and need to get it done. And it's much more doable right now because we don't have the animal vectors in there that COVID does.
Brad, this is Craig. Could I suggest that you unshare your screen and then that way we can see people put up their hands?
Yeah.
Done.
The other thing that somebody brought up was, will we have access to the PowerPoint? And Craig, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think all of this is being recorded and will be posted and available later.
Yes, it is.
Okay, any other questions? I think Brad did a great job. I say give him a clap.
Thank you.
And if anybody wants to know more about fetal alcohol spectrum disorder, that we're going to do the global grant here in Alaska. Australia is helping us do it here. We helped them do theirs last year and they're coming back next year. Give me a call. I'd be excited to have you help.
Super. Oh, there's another question.
Debbie?
Bushnell.
Or are you just saying, okay, I'll put you on the list. I think I already have you there, but I'll put you on the list.
Okay, well, if there's nobody else, thank you all very, very much for participating in this. A special thank to Brad and Diane for putting this on, and for District Governor Andre for making a personal appearance. I'm sure that was difficult. And I would say everybody, the Rotary Abuse and Harassment and Youth Foundation, or Youth Protection, is going to be on. It's on the. It's going to be on the URL ending in 120, and it starts at 2 o'clock. So hope to see you there. And thank you very, very much for joining us. Have a good day.
Thank you so much, Craig, for all your help. I just would like to add too, real quickly, I know clubs are getting their feet under them again and meeting virtually and whatnot. And, I, and I'm sure Diane or any one of the grants team, we're all available and willing to join in on a club meeting, online and just be part of a conversation. Don't even have to do a formal presentation, but if you just want to have a question and answer session or anything about the foundation, grants, whatever, I'm happy to participate if I can, if I'm available.
Actually, sorry, there was one other from Mary in Ketchikan. Oh, sorry, that was private. I will.
Go for it.
No, actually, I think it was directed to something specific. So, sorry. Great job, Brad. Thanks.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, we'll see you everybody later.
All right. Everybody enjoy yourselves. Bye.